On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite our newest alumnus, the Honourable Thomas Hawkin, to address Convocation. Dr.
Mr. Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Professor Cunningham, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you deeply for your kindness in extending to me this great honor. I accept it not only on my behalf, but on behalf of my wife, Mary, our children, Kirsty, Tori, and Tom, who have put up with me all these years and have been my pillars of support in all we have done. And for many reasons, including this occasion, they are very happy to be here today. They're returning to their hometown of many years, and two are graduates of Western just like you. So they too feel warmly about London and this great university. May I warmly congratulate my fellow graduates today. I congratulate you because university degrees represent a lot of hard work and dedication. They don't just drop from the trees, only honorary degrees drop from the trees. The description of my past by Professor Cunningham was way too flattering. Having been an academic and then in public life, this included, Dr. Cunningham, many jarring moments. I remember one afternoon I was serving in the House of Commons. It was a slow day, very few people there. And we had what were called pages in the House. These are first-year students who bring you glasses of water and phone messages. And not much was happening. And this one page came up to me and she said, "Are you related to this Thomas A. Hawkin, who wrote this colossally boring textbook we have to read in Canadian political science?" And I said, "I am that Tom Hawkin." Now, she came back about 20 minutes later and said, "It wasn't that boring." I said, "You've lost it with me." So, during one of my campaigns, too, I was reminded of a very black mark in my high school career. I went to Midway High School, which is just 5 miles north of here. And in grade 9 carpentry and woodworking, I was able to break a bandsaw, a jigsaw, and a lathe all in the first month. And the second month, the teacher was away for a few minutes. He walked in, I had the remains of a bandsaw on the floor. And he said, "What have you done now?" And I said, "Well, I've broken it again." He said, "Can I take you out into the hall?" He said, "Listen, I'll give you a 50, a pass, if you never darken my door again." But the story doesn't end there. 30 years later, I was campaigning for office. And in London, there's a lot of long driveways. And what you do when you campaign for office, you bring your brochure to front doors and meet people. I was going up this driveway with my brochure, and who in front of the garage with all his tools was my old carpentry teacher. And as soon as he saw me, he said, "Don't go any farther. I'll take your sign, put it here, but don't get near my tools." Yogi Berra, who's a famous baseball player whose malapropisms are legendary, speaking on the occasion of his honorary degree, he received one 3 years ago at St. Louis University, and he reminisced with these words: "It is wonderful to be back here in St. Louis and to visit the old neighborhood. I haven't been back since the last time I was here. Everything looks the same, only different. Of course, things in the past are never as they used to be." Well, I could say the same, only differently. Mr. Chancellor, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I grew up just one block from the Richmond Street gates. And the neighborhood hasn't changed much. In the fall, each day after elementary school, I would play baseball, soccer, or football in the little park on Epworth Avenue. And in the fall, not far off, through the trees, I could hear the brass and drums of the Mustang Band. The Mustang Band practicing, and I would dream of going to Western. And when I finally arrived, I was very happy. The academics were demanding, the friendships close, the school spirit was palpable. So there you have a taste of my early narrative, but what I'd like to do is address your new narrative, graduates. In this world we now live in, I have to say it is a myth that we perpetuate on young people that they should know what career they want on the very day they graduate. In truth, a career is only knowable on the day you retire. Most careers, really, are a set of fortuitous accidents. I've been very lucky and helped so much by friends and an understanding family. If we contrast what you're heading into and what you live in now, it's very different from the 18th century Enlightenment. Voltaire said of that period, this is a period of steady improvement in everything, everywhere, always. But now, it's, yes, steady improvement, but we all live with disrupted momentum. I have a vivid example from our board meeting last week at the International Monetary Fund in Washington. We were told that there have been 22 major banking crises since the Second World War, almost one every 2.5 years. And all this disrupted momentum in the financial world, it matters because it feeds into the real economy we all live in. Yet, even with this disrupted momentum, improvements continue. At the IMF and elsewhere, much has been learned about this, and a new architecture is being crafted to help prevent and decrease the severity of these crises. And I want to say to you with great pride that much of the architecture is that they produce is they're copying what Canada has done. Canada has been an example in the area of financial services. In fact, even though this is a period of progress with disrupted momentum, we're in a period, in fact, a period when literature and life generally captures hesitations we have, sieges of doubt we have, anxious questionings we have, as we all try to attempt some credible narrative of our lives in this post-Enlightenment age. The truth is, for all of us, gone are these confident certainties of Enlightenment. To experience disruptions now is part of our lives and part of being a modernist with sensibility, be it in finance, art, literature, politics, climate, industry, media, and so on. Disrupted momentum is part of all our lives. And to live with some sympathy for others in this modern time, it's almost necessary to have experienced some disruption and anxiety ourselves. Beyond this experience in this modernist age, what can we learn from this? Well, a giant of modernist narrative, Charles Darwin, concluded, this is a very important statement. It isn't the strongest of the species that survive, he said, nor the most intelligent, but rather the species who are the most adaptable to change. Most adaptable to change. Adapt. Just as countries must strive to be nimbly adaptable and not be paralyzed by disruption, so should we be. It's true that disruptions close some doors, yet they throw open doors too. Never forget this wonderful example. A friend of mine at the Ivy School here at Western proved in class some years ago that for sale in the front store windows of downtown London, Ontario, or Toronto, or New York, or Paris, only 1 or 10 of these products even existed 10 years ago. 9 doors open, 1 closes. So it's important to be adaptable. How to be adaptable, you ask? Well, I've thought about that a lot myself, and I've come to a rather modest conclusion. What is marketable to others and fulfilling for you is not your past titles or but what you actually do. What you do is described, it turns out, by verbs, not titles. You create, you design, you help, you manage, you integrate, you report, you organize, you analyze, you direct. That's what you do. Title may be something else, but that's really, you do some of these things. That's what you do. For example, in social sciences, in media studies, or postdoctoral work, you do so many of these things. That's who you are. It's what you do. Verbs describe, it's verbs that describe what employers are looking for, and it's verbs that describe what entrepreneurs identify and move into. So hence, in my view, I think we need to rethink the whole notion of careers. We should think of a career as something you do rather than something you are. This difference is subtle but important. A flexible Western graduate will be the one who can take skills based on your aptitudes, of course, to some extent your emotional intelligence, and your practice competencies, learned in one job and apply them to a totally different job. You'll be surprised how often this will happen to you in your life. And I venture to say that our chancellor and vice chancellor are examples of this in their lives. Multiple careers are to be embraced, not feared. To repeat, most occupations are captured by verbs, not titles. Integrate, I manage, I integrate, I help, I create, I design, and so on. So which of these do you like to do and do well? Now, as you adapt, however, I got a warning. I promise you, you will find yourselves in jobs where you feel completely over your head on day one. My advice is to relax. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I have a confession to make. I have never had a job in my life that I felt qualified to do on day one. Never. Wonderful phrase Samuel Butler said, "Life is like giving a concert on a violin while still learning to play the instrument." That's life. So if you ever feel too new when you try something new, don't worry. Everybody who succeeds probably feels the same. A few personal examples. 40 or more years ago, I was almost petrified at Harvard when I was a teaching fellow, and I had to substitute for a professor who had a stroke, and I had to teach his course for the last month and a half. I had in my class David Johnson, our Governor General, Margaret Atwood, who's she, and Moses Znaimer, who started Much Music and all that. I was very nervous when I took my first seat in Parliament because the history of Parliament was what I had studied for many years. Or when I first sat at a cabinet table with ministers I had admired for over a decade. And it really got me last year when I sat beneath the bust of John Maynard Keynes at my first IMF board meeting. Life truly is like playing the violin at a concert while you're still taking lessons. But don't pass up the opportunity. Be adaptable, expect many careers, don't despair of disruptions or the novelty of your new task. One final piece of advice, piece of experience really resonates in my memory. We began a few minutes ago by thanking our pillars of support, and you are thanking your pillars of support today since you've expanded your horizons here and worked to your degree. These pillars were, you know, friends, parents, academic advisors, new neighbors, new enthusiasms, some volunteering you did or whatever. All of these broadened your foundation. May I suggest then, as you leave here, even when you're married and have young children, do not pour your energy into one faction, one place or thing. Provide yourself with many pillars of support, many circles of friends, and many worthy causes, and as many interests as you can. give to them and care about them, and it may seem a one-way street, but let me tell you, it seldom is. When I was at high school here, and I was telling the Vice Chancellor this before we came in, when I was at high school here in the university in the 50s, I saw Western develop 2 new colleges, one in Waterloo, one in Windsor. This was a sacrifice for Western at the time. Both these colleges grew to become great universities in their own right, Waterloo and Windsor. And lo and behold, one of its deans is back to thank Western by being its president. What pillars you develop become stronger and better through your attention, but you may be surprised too. Instead of depending on you, they may very well help you in ways you never counted on or expected. So can I conclude with a little secular benediction? May your professional narrative in this age be not a search for a permanent niche of some sort, but be a narrative of adaptiveness and of grace as you do something new or when dark disruptions cloud your path. And may any disruption be lit by opportunities you have lit for others and others for you. And above all, don't forget the cornerstone of the pillar in your life, your alma mater, Western. Thank you.